Everybody, the MMO50, aka Mystic Biohazard here once again. Sorry about the shakiness of the camera, I'm doing this from the laptop's webcam. Actually, with the recent announcement of the shutdown of City of Heroes essentially imminent, I recently started going through my old things, and I found this. This is the original City of Heroes, City of Villains double box set that I originally bought back when I first got into City of Heroes. And it's a bit of a funny story, actually. I didn't know at the time when I bought this that this was an MMO. And the laptop I was trying to run it on at the time, and yes, I was trying to run this on a laptop, still am technically, could barely run it. And I'm not sure whether that was just because of the graphical limitations of the laptop, or just because the game at the time was so relatively cutting edge, you could say, as to be ridiculous. But yeah, this was the original box that I got, City of Heroes, City of Villains, and when I first got this, I was never able to get a City of Villains account. I was only able to get a City of Heroes account. And this was back when they still had subscriptions and the two were separate, on separate servers. So you couldn't get on one server and then transfer over to City of Villains over to the Rogue Isles, for those of you who know what that is. On the inside leaflet here, join the battleground of good versus evil. I'm having to read that backwards here because I'm looking at the screen. And as you can see here, a couple of screenshots, shots of Statesman here, who by the time I came back was essentially on the way to the grave. And I originally got this when I was about 13, 14 years old, still in middle school. And back then, I can still remember the name of my first character when I went into the game. His name was Human Fortress. I was going to name him the Human Fortress, but you needed to gain a certain number of levels in order to gain the ability to use the word "the" in your name, and that's kind of the way it was. On the inside here, I still have everything that came with it, and on the back here, on the box, you can see there's the old-fashioned character creator screen. Sorry about the glare there, that's sunlight. Can't see what that is there. A villain, whatnot. A screenshot of a bunch of heroes. Don't know if you can see that too well. And down here, this is really interesting. This is one of the things that got me into it. Right here. You see that jetpack? I'm not even sure if that was available after a period of time. But that was advertised in the box. I never was able to get that. This was back when you had to subscribe. And sadly, I've lost the subscription cards back then, because what happened was you bought this and there were two subscription cards in here, one for you and one for someone you would refer the game to. Back then I couldn't afford $15 every single month, so, and with the connection speeds being finicky as all crap, I could barely play it, so it was a bit of a turnoff for me. But you can see here, Game of the Year award, two of them I believe, yeah, MMORPG Game of the Year and Editor's Choice for Computer Gaming Monthly. MMORPG Game of the Year. So, rather a nice set here. And I still have it from when I first bought it. And this was a pretty big deal back at the time because City of Heroes and City of Villains even had just come out relatively. So, these were back when they were still separate and back when the system was still on a pay-to-play basis. It wasn't like it was eventually with Freedom, where you could pay for a VIP and you got access to special stuff, but you had to keep paying for $15 a month, or you could just go free, and even though you would be limited, you could get pretty much everything a VIP member could, with some minor exceptions, with a few microtransactions, which could net you more than the monthly subscription if you got the yearly, but that's neither here nor there. But I still remember my character of Human Fortress, and I never was able to remember the account which I made back then, so I wasn't able to relaunch that same account. But when I eventually got back into City of Heroes as Mystic Biohazard, I actually had two versions of Mystic Biohazard before I became VIP and afterward. The first Mystic Biohazard I got rid of because he was I was just starting out back then. I was kind of getting back into the game and I'd forgotten all the mechanics, and all the mechanics had changed on me, so I wasn't able to remember everything about the game. And lo and behold, I go to figure it out, and Mystic Biohazard was a bit of a hard one to learn. I believe he was a corruptor. I can't remember. No, he was a blaster. And as his name implied, he was of the mystical. He was mystic, obviously, magical based, and he was also of, and he had radiation powers. That's basically where he got his name from. And I always like creating characters that were kind of like either a play on words or a play on terms, because a mystic biohazard by itself is something that kind of should not be, because a biohazard implies something scientifically proven, and then mystic provides something that isn't scientifically proven at all, be it magic. But in the character creation, I gave him the profile that he was able to use magic to manipulate radiation. I figured that was a pretty interesting idea, and it actually was. Problem was that I wasn't used to the playstyle of a blaster, so I actually went and recreated another character named Incendio, who was a flame brawler. He actually had flame melee, and I didn't keep him around until after level 20 because Incendio wasn't that good of a build, and at that point I was still trying to struggle to get any sort of character build. But at that point I had actually subscribed to VIP, and that's when I created Omnicron. Omnicron is the oldest living toon that I still have on my account. I can't access him now because my subscription had run out just before the big news had come down, before the hammer came down, and I wasn't able to resubscribe because I was focusing on college stuff, still am. But Mystic Biohazard had been gotten rid of. I got rid of Incendio because at that point I had high enough level to be able to use Omnicron, and with the VIP account I was able to basically create Omnicron. And Omnicron as a Peacebringer, I love the Peacebringer class. I just do. I know people badmouth it, say what you will, but for me, I love Jack of all trades characters. I love characters that can do a little bit of everything, because in a situation where you're in a team, and that's where Peacebringers really excel, War Shades too, where they excel is in teams, and that's where I like to use Omnicron. Omnicron is great. Omnicron was and still is great for team missions. If I could still use him, if it weren't for the fact that he's locked to me now, I would still be using him. He would probably be, if the hammer still comes down and City of Heroes does not get renewed, I would use Omnicron on the last day if I had access to it. He would be the last character I would use, and I would go and play one last mission with my friends. That's my dream right now. But the only two characters right now I have access to are the second Mystic Biohazard, who I created Roleplay here. That the original Mystic Biohazard, when I deleted his character profile, I made it so I don't have the original character look and data and everything. I full-on deleted him. I was kind of stupid that way, but I made it so that the second Mystic Biohazard was actually the sun temporally displaced via the Ouroboros of the first Mystic Biohazard. And he came back in time to take his father's place after he had already grown up and become a man. And he is a bit different. Instead of being mystical, he's scientific. And he's not Mystic Biohazard 2, he's just Mystic Biohazard. He just took up the name. He assumed his father's identity. So to the public at large, he's still the same person, but very few people actually know that they are two completely separate people. And Mystic Biohazard is the only one of two characters now that I have access to playing, because I can't buy any more slots, and I can't resubscribe my VIP for obvious reasons. The only other one I have access to right now is a character called State Shield, who is essentially a Captain America XP. He looks just like Captain America, and that's not without reason. I love Captain America as a character, patriotic and whatnot. Of course, he has Statesman's mask, he has the Statesman helm, because I got that as part of the rewards. And I like the look. And Statesman himself is kind of like a conglomeration between, an amalgamation between Superman and Captain America to begin with, in a sense. So he is pretty much the Superman and Captain America of the City of Heroes universe. Say what you will. And I kind of like that idea that he was maybe not the progenitor, but he was essentially the originator of this modern idea of a superhero in the City of Heroes universe. and I made it so in role-playing. Sorry about that, the god dang webcam decided to cut out on me there. But State Shield is essentially a Captain America XP, kind of, sort of. The idea behind him is that he took up, after Statesman in the canon of City of Heroes died, State Shield took up the mantle. He took up the helmet, a very similar looking helmet to him, and he has super strength. Super strength, by the way, Mystic Biohazard, in case I forgot, is a rad corruptor. Double radiation. Radiation emission and radiation absorption, I think it is. Radiation control, maybe, I think it is. Either way. State Shield is a super strength tanker. And he is hard hitting. He's super strength, obviously. But he's not the easiest character to play as tankers. He's a shield tanker with super strength. So, very close one-on-one kind of deal. But I like the idea that the character kind of took up the mantle similar to Statesman's after Statesman died. And Statesman died, he took up the mantle, but he also made the costume to celebrate his patriotism because he's a citizen of the United States. So just kind of tossing a little nod to Captain America there, but he's already a bit of an XP. There's only one other character I did like to talk about, and that's Omnicron himself. Omnicron, obviously being a Peacebringer. I've roleplayed a little with Omnicron, just a smidgen. And Omnicron, sorry about that sink going on in the kitchen. Anyway, Omnicron, obviously being a Peacebringer. Peacebringers are jacks of all trades, and I love jack of all trades characters because if you need to have a spot filled in a team, you call on the jack of all trade to fill in that spot. Because it just helps. Because if the one guy who is supposed to be your healer goes down, jack of all trades. If the one guy is supposed to be the tanker goes down, jack of all trades. If the one guy is supposed to be the blaster goes down, you guessed it, jack of all trades. Putting it bluntly, I like the fact that Omnicron, and yes, I know Peacebringers are quote-unquote squishy, as it were. I like the idea that Peacebringers are the jacks of all trades, and obviously Peacebringers in canon are basically beings who are essentially living light, for lack of a better term. It's kind of hard to explain, but I roleplay it to where Omnicron is about a little over 1,000, maybe 2,000 years old, and that's because he's worked with the Ouroboros for so long, and as a Peacebringer, he and his brother, Pax Eternia, who is a Warshade that I played, they're both twin brothers. So they look almost exactly the same, except they have different color hair. Omnicron has gray hair, and Pax has black hair. But Omnicron originally wore a dark black uniform, and a black uniform with white accents, and then Pax Eternia, the Warshade, wore a white uniform with black accents. Sort of a differential. Eventually, Omnicron I switched him to a more angelic-looking outfit, more of a Valkyrie style. For a time, he actually had a scarf to honor Doctor Who. Funny thing. But I roleplayed it to where Pax Eternia and Omnicron were twin brothers, and they both had inoperable cancer. So the Keldian and the Nictus, who eventually merged with the both of them, gave them the opportunity, essentially offered them the option to merge with them, cure them of their cancer, and allow, because according to the continuity, Peacebringers and Warshades, as the Keldians and Nictus, respectively, can only survive a certain number of years, and then they fade away unless they merge with the host, in which case they become symbiotically bonded. And I roleplayed it to where Omnicron and Pax Eternia had lived around 100 years or so already. They had seen one alternate future. But in between that, they had actually contacted the Ouroboros right after they became superheroes. The Ouroboros managed to bring them into the fold, as it were. and they've lived several centuries. But since they're symbiotically bonded to the Chaldeans and the Nyctus, they don't age at all. And since Chaldeans and Nyctus are shapeshifters by nature, I figured it would only make sense that they might want to keep their appearance similar to each other, but they might want to change it up a bit because they were originally identical twins. So Omnicron changed his hair in canon to gray with slight lighter gray streaks, bright gray with light gray with dark gray streaks, almost black. And Pax Eternia had just jet black hair, both in ponytails, much like mine, though much neater, admittedly. I didn't unplug it on purpose. Sorry, everybody. Anyway, so I roleplayed that, and I love those characters. I really do. So if City of Heroes is going to go offline, I have some stories to tell. And in the end, if City of Heroes does decide to shut down, even if it doesn't, I'm going to try and make it a habit to make videos sort of trying to remember a little bit about some of the experiences I had with some of the friends that I played with and some of the campaigns that we did together. I'm probably going to talk about... And by the by, if anybody wants to make a similar video and post it as a video response, all for it. If this helps get the game back on track and back into good graces with NCSoft, or if they can sell it to another company and it can keep going, all the better. So yeah, I'm hoping that this starts a trend of people talking about their experiences, and this way, if the game does actually end, their experiences can be shared with others who may not have been able to before. And if it is continued onward, we can still share stories as they happen. And I think that would be very nice, to be able to share such stories with everybody, because we all have little stories that we'd love to share. So, if you have a story of your own City of Heroes campaign that you want to post as a video response, do so below. And of course, post links on Facebook, Twitter. Tag them with the CoH, with the save CoH hashtag. Do whatever you want. I'm doing this mostly to preserve the memories that I have. And we all love this game. Let's try and preserve it as best we can, and that includes telling stories. Let's do it, people. This is Mystic Biohazard, signing out.